I was out of the office with COVID. So happened to me at the same time last year. So I guess, I take my COVID break at the end of the year, unfortunately. So I definitely don't like having that, but I am better and I am back in studio and I'm here with Brandy and Kate should be joining us in a second. Happy New Year to everybody. I'm really excited to be back and we have a lot to talk about. And Brandy, what's up with you? How are you doing?
I've been pretty good. I'm excited to be back. It's been a while. So I'm ready to talk some sports.
Mm, okay, go ahead, Brandy. Sorry. How
No,
you?
you're fine. I'm pretty good. I said I'm excited to be back. It's been a while. A lot of, stuff has happened in sports since we've been here.
Yeah, I missed you.
Right, me too.
Yeah, I miss Kate too. So it feels like it's been a long time. So it kind of has been. But, we're coming off of a victory Monday because the Cleveland Cavaliers just beat the New Orleans Pelicans. So that's one of the teams that is surging right now in the NBA. They are in fourth place in the Western Conference. And so the Cleveland Cavaliers are in fifth place. But there's like a three-way tie for second place right now with 27 wins. So the Cavs just got their 28th win, I believe. So they should be right up there as well as one of the leaders in the Eastern Conference. But they're coming off of a huge win. But we're going to talk some Cleveland Cavaliers. But right now, I want to talk some Cleveland Browns, Brandy. We didn't get a chance to, talk about the Saints game that took place. We didn't get a chance to talk about the last game against we didn't get a chance to talk about the game against the Commanders, and we didn't get a chance to talk. Who was our last game against? Our
The
last game against was it against the Commanders?
Pittsburgh was our last game.
Pittsburgh, yeah. So it's been about 3 weeks. We haven't had a chance to talk about the Browns. So, that's 3 weeks that we haven't had a chance to talk about, what they've been up to, how they've been performing in games. But, right now, the end of the season, and we just had playoff football that just taken place. What are your thoughts about the season that was for the Cleveland Browns, minus all the losing?
Yeah, so I think it was somewhat expected, going into the season, knowing Deshaun was going to miss most of the season. I think a lot of people kind of sort of expected then. They didn't know what the season was going to be. But I think, there was more downs to it than we thought. They had a lot of injuries, losing three centers, losing, three linebackers that were starting as well. But I think, it gave them a lot of things to look at this offseason for this next season.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about, I don't think they expected to lose though. I think they expected to win. I think that they expected to have a good season. I think that they expected, Jacoby Brissett to be that stopgap guy to get them through until Deshaun Watson came back because, if you remember, they thought that the suspension was going to be 6 games and it was originally 6 games. And then, the NFL got overzealous with it based on public reaction and not what actually happened. They got overzealous with it and suspended him for longer. And, I don't blame anything on Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett came and did his job. He was that bridge builder. Unfortunately, there were 2 games in which he threw, key interceptions, but that was, 2 times out of 11 when the game was on the line. If anything, he dealt with a defense that has regressed, that has not improved, that's let him down. The linebacker core going down, hurt tremendously. But I think that this team had every expectation to win. And they thought that when Deshaun Watson came back, that it was going to be better. It turns out it was worse. But I think that going in to next season, they have high expectations. They have the expectation that, not Jacoby Brissett, but that Deshaun Watson is going to be able to click with Amari Cooper. He's going to be able to build up some chemistry with DPJ. He's going to be able to work with these receivers. So, I look at the season and almost every Cleveland Browns season as a ton of drama. It was drama filled. And, you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars and what happened with Urban Meyer last season, but they were able to turn it around and the Browns are a more more talented team than the Jacksonville Jaguars, they were able to turn it around and be in the playoffs and win against the Chargers yesterday. So why not the Cleveland Browns? Why not us? Why do we continue to go through this every year? What do you think the problem is, Brandy?
Yeah, I agree. I was, thinking to myself about Jacksonville, just like you had said, thinking how they were with Urban, I'm not sure exactly, but they'd only won like one or two games that year. And now, being in the second round of playoffs, it is crazy. And it does make you think, coaching can be a big problem as well, especially in Jacksonville. They have most of the same team that they did with Urban. So, the Browns did take that step to fire Joe Woods. So, I'm hoping that will definitely help the defense next year.
Yeah, and I think it comes with Deshaun Watson, getting as many reps as possible. They want him to be this team leader, and I think he's taken a lot of steps, good steps. And actually being a team leader and doing what he needs to do to lead the team, it just really hadn't happened on the field too much, and that's the thing. I think about it as a team like the Cleveland Cavaliers. Do they play down to their competition?
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah. But it's just like there were games that you were supposed to win that you were the better team. They were supposed to beat the Jets. The Jets were a surprise though. They were supposed to beat the Jets. But if not for them not being able to recover an onside kick, the percentage chance of an onside kick being recoverable is like I think maybe 6%. And
That's
for whatever reason, they were a part of the 6% that day and they let the Jets, recover that ball instead of knocking it out of bounds, I believe, because I was still there. I was at that game. And, I don't know what made us stay, what told us to stay, but, we were there for that. So I missed the part where they recovered the onside kick. But, you're just, there in disbelief. You had a better team than the Atlanta Falcons. You were supposed to beat that team. So, everybody said that they can go, 4-0, and they didn't do that. And I just can't blame Jacoby Brissett with that. One of the things is that there was a defensive issue, and I don't know about making Joe Woods the scapegoat for that. How do you feel about Joe Woods being a scapegoat?
Yeah, I don't think full blame of, the things that went wrong this season is on him. I think it was both, the players and the coaches. Just something wasn't going right. There was a lot of miscommunication with the players themselves, it seemed like, especially in the secondary on the field when we were seeing those big plays happen. So I think, it's not all on Joe Woods.
Yeah, because the players have to play. And the majority of these players have been playing football since they were little kids. What is the difference? How do, coverages change and defensive changes and, defensive plays change when you've been playing your whole life? That's one of the things that I don't understand. Hey, Mickey, how you doing? Happy New Year to you. I don't really understand that, how things are so different when you get to the professional level, when you've had, X amount of plays your entire life. How did it get so bad? They talked about, yeah, this is a communication issue. Okay, so fix that communication issue. So talk. What is, what is X, Y, and Z supposed to be doing? They need to be talking to each other to figure out what they're supposed to be doing. When a quarterback, might change, they might call an audible based on the defensive coverage that they see, but still the basics are the same and it doesn't really change. So I don't understand, why there wasn't any communication and things like that on the field.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like most of their problems that they were having weren't technically playing football themselves. It was, everything surrounding it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I just, I feel bad for Joe Woods because a lot of it falls on the players. They're the ones out there playing and, not communicating and, missing plays and, stuff like that. So I just hate, to see a black man lose his job as well, because you never want to see anybody get fired. But I definitely don't want him to be a scapegoat. But, with his firing, I'm expecting the defense to make a ton of leaps leaps and bounds and to be 100% better than what they were last year. So if Joe Woods was a problem and you got rid of him, how is this defense going to be next year? And they better have a whole bunch of pro bowlers on this defense, because if you fire Joe Woods, I'm expecting 100% turnaround.
Yeah, I agree. Basically, getting rid of him is saying, that he was, maybe the problem of why they were playing. So definitely
Mm-hmm.
agree. Have to see a big improvement next year in the defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we fixed the problem. We got rid of Joe. So, okay, what is getting rid of Joe going to do for this team? So, what are your thoughts about the offense? What are your thoughts about, what possibly should happen with Kareem Hunt? Because that's that big elephant in the room. A lot of people don't feel that Kareem Hunt is going to be back next year. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's so hard. I, hope he does come back. One of the special things about the Browns was having, him and Nick Chubb be that 1-2 punch. They kind of did shy away from it, this season compared to last year. It was mainly them both. And now, this past season, we saw Nick Chubb getting most of the carry. So, I think they could have been using Kareem more, but they chose not to. So, it doesn't seem like, it is his hometown, so I'm sure he does want to stay here. But how we saw him playing with the Chiefs, I think he probably does want a bigger role somewhere else.
Yeah, and I blame Kevin Stefanski for that. You call the plays. Why aren't you calling plays that, why aren't you incorporating Kareem Hunt more into your playbook for the week? One thing that he's proven that he's an effective, a receiver out of the backfield, and he can, catch the ball. So it's like, why not to help get Deshaun Watson in some rhythm to throw some screens, so he can, keep the defense on their toes and, break a couple open. Why weren't you doing plays like that for him and Nick Chubb? The other game, I think, was at Pittsburgh, where Nick Chubb was the leading wide receiver. You could have had a role similarly for Kareem Hunt, because he has obviously different strengths than Nick Chubb. But why weren't you calling some screens out the flat for him and, having easy stuff and giving him a chance to get a few touches and get acclimated to the game and be a producer for you? That's one of the most important things, is getting the most out of you can, because right now you have Kareem Hunt, signed for a very low value. And why aren't you getting the most out of this offense? Because always chucking the ball, down the field hasn't been working. And, when he was used for a ton of screens in Kansas City, and that's how he was able to get a ton of yardage, and they were able to use him effectively. And I don't understand why Kevin Stefanski has struggled to use the best running back tandem in all of the NFL, why he struggled to be able to use them together.
Yeah, week 1 when we played the Carolina Panthers, that game, Kareem had 2 touchdowns. And, there were some plays where we saw both him and Nick Chubb on the field at the same time, which I liked. But, he kind of did shy away from that. But I think just him as a play caller, he probably, needs to find more of the player's strengths and stick with that. And then, there were times we saw when, running the ball was working and then they would go away from that. So I think, just finding the strengths and when to use that play.
Yeah, that's a Kevin Stefanski problem, and I'm really tired of him calling the plays. A lot of noise has been made very recently about, he's doing a good job calling the plays. Well, if he's doing such a good job, and I know that the players have to execute, why do we continue to lose?
Right.
There's a few things that need to be assessed, in the off season. Y'all fire Joe Woods, okay, but what about your offensive production as well? We know that Deshaun Watson didn't play that great, coming back. We have to be 100% honest about that. He needs, marked improvement, 100% turnaround. But Kevin Stefanski, the play calling and not utilizing, your best receivers and your best strengths. Why not get David Bell out there a little bit, get him some action? He barely touched the ball. I think that, they've given up on Anthony Schwartz. I know I have. And I guess, he was out anyway. So that's, but they look like they don't want to move on from players that they draft. But I think even Anthony Schwartz would say, I've worked hard, but I failed at my job.
Yeah,
So go
they
ahead.
do
Sorry.
have a lot of decisions, especially with all the free agents. There's probably, close to 10 big name free agents that they have as well. So they're definitely going to need to, decide soon of who they want to stay and how much they're willing to pay them to stay.
Yeah, I think that they're willing to pay a good amount. If you look at the Jadeveon Clowney situation, they were willing to, give him pretty much what he wanted. But obviously, and we're going to get to that in the next segment, I think that they're willing to spend the money to, get these free agents in there. Obviously they're going to have some cap hits and stuff like that. And they have a huge cap hit because all of Deshaun Watson's salary will hit this year. So they have to, figure out how to make it all work with that. But this team is desperate. Things on the offensive side were coming together a little bit, but on the defensive side, you got some holes to fill. Pretty much you have to look at that whole front seven, and figure out what you're going to do. So it isn't just, a player here, a player there. It's your whole front seven you need to overhaul. And so far, their draft picks are hit or miss.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. You are listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
Maranatha Bible College and Institute, a local Christian college, has been serving the greater Cleveland area for over 40 years. Located at 13702 Kinsman Road, Maranatha Bible College and Institute is affordable, fully accredited, and has a staff and faculty heavily invested in the success of its students. Maranatha provides an education that will assist you in your spiritual growth while preparing you to be effective in the area of service for which God has called you. Maranatha offers 12 weeks of instruction in the summer, fall, and winter quarters. Registration for winter 2023 continues through January 26th. For more information or to register for classes, stop by the main campus at 13701 Kinsman Road on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9:30 a.m. to noon and 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. or call 216-291-7292. This message is brought to you by Maranatha Bible College and Institute and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United. Burton Bell Carr Community Radio. It's that time of year where we all make and break our New Year's resolutions. Keeping your resolutions is easier when you're connected. You can go back to school, start your own business, stay in touch with family and friends, and even take a workout class all from your own home. The Digital Navigators can help you get connected to affordable internet. Call 216-307-6990 today to meet your digital navigator. This message is brought to you by the Greater Cleveland Digital Navigators and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United. Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to WOVU 95.9 FM. And make sure you keep it locked here on your regular radio dial. You can also listen to us online at WOVU.org. You can also contact the studio. You can call us anytime at 216-271-0959. And you can also download that WOVU app and you can take us with you on the go. And I am here with Miss Brandy Fairfax, and we are discussing some Cleveland Browns. We are wrapping up the season because we missed the past 3 weeks because I was out with COVID. So we are wrapping up the Cleveland Browns season, the season that was, and we're talking about, some of the highlights, some of the lowlights. And right now, what are your thoughts about the Jadeveon Clowney situation as we move on to defense?
Yeah, so, seeing those comments come out, I think, any player saying about their team is, hard to hear. And, him saying how he wants someone to believe in him kind of just makes you look at all as a whole in the locker room. And, there were other players who also mentioned, like John Johnson. He had said like a few weeks back that they had lost the locker room, and he mentioned, things like that in his ex interview as well.
Yeah, Mary Kay did say, "Are you okay with me writing this?" So she got his permission numerous times, and I forgot who the player was that was next to Jadeveon Clowney. Like, hey, that could be, kind of taken the wrong way, and Jadeveon Clowney didn't care. So, I guess there's some frustration. But I'm like, Jadeveon, you be hurt half the time. So what are you talking about? Believing in you. And the best thing, Bill Belichick says, I forget the direct quote, but, the best ability is availability, and that's the thing. If you're not available and you're constantly, injured and stuff like that, I wouldn't say people don't believe in you, but, we're facing a situation where you're not there to contribute and help the team. So what are you kind of mad about, and then you bring in Myles Garrett into that conversation and stuff like that, talking about, he's given them more favorable matchups and stuff like that to build a Hall of Fame career for him, and that's kind of throwing Myles under the bus as well, and I think, Myles Garrett is a better player, and Jadeveon Clowney is very complimentary to him, but Jadeveon Clowney is over 30 as well too. So, we're talking about, a decline and diminishment of skills, and also somebody who, as you hope that you're able to have him be available, because at times he's not. So I just, it's just one of these situations where it's just a ton of drama with this regime and the players that we have, like I listened in our outline today, with OBJ and Baker, Baker and, Davion Clowney and Myles, the Kareem Hunt situation, it's just like, what do you do to appease people? I don't know if this coaching staff is having the proper talks with these players that they need to be having, that, they go to the media with demands and frustrations and things of that nature. Normally John Johnson, really hasn't made any complaints. He's a pretty good interview. But, why are these players so frustrated, and what is not being communicated to these players?
Yeah, John Johnson also said in his ex interview that he felt that the entire building needed a sense of urgency, and he hopes that the new coordinator brings a spark. So it just seems like they need something to, light them up for next season, or, that could be a coach.
Yeah, because how you finish the season, translates into the next season, and you wanted to end this season on a good note, on a good high. And I honestly thought that they were going to be able to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought that they were going to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. Myles Garrett talked about playing spoiler, and what did they do? They got in there, they stunk it up defensively. Offensively, they really couldn't get nothing going. Deshaun Watson, I think, was sacked like 7 times. Their offensive line was struggling, and they didn't do anything that you expected them to be able to do. So, that just kind of sucks, and that didn't set the tone, for going into next season. So, it's just, I don't know, with this team, there's just not enough, continuity. And, on paper, this team looks like it could be a great team. It looks like, it could be a wild card team, but, they start to play games and they just implode, as people not making plays, critical drops and things like that. It's just things you can't have. And they have an inability to finish games. This team does not know how to win. And that's very important. They don't know how to pull out these games, as evidenced by the Jets game. Why not, get that ball out of bounds? You don't know how to win because you let them convert that, onside kick. So it's just things like that. And I feel like it could take a while, but, you have a pretty young locker room too. You don't have a ton of veterans in there as well, and a ton of veterans that have been able to win at other places. Because I believe John Johnson, did he leave the year they won the Super Bowl? Did he win a Super Bowl with the Chargers? Not the Chargers, but
The
the
Rams.
Rams. Yeah, I think he might have left the year before or something.
He may have, or during that season, maybe was when he came here.
Yeah, because I feel like he doesn't have a ring. But I was speaking to the point of not everybody having a ton of winning experience in that locker room, and those players who have been drafted into the Cleveland Browns definitely don't have that experience and stuff like that. So these are things that good teams, they learn how to do. And I just wish they had been able to get that win and knock Pittsburgh out of the playoffs, because that would have been an excellent way to go into the season, to end the season. But it didn't happen like that. It is what it is. But like Jadavion said, he probably won't be here next year. And I think that might be the best.
Yeah, I agree.
So it looks like we got some comments here from George. George says, you sign Hunt to a 2-year deal with a 3rd-year option by the team, then wish someone other than Stefanski call plays. Now, who should the Browns go after to complement Amari Cooper in free agency? I've heard of Brandon Cooks wanting to be out of Houston. Yeah, I'll take that. Then he says, we have drama with everything going on with us, but the Ravens created their own with a Lamar Jackson opera in his knee. He says, Clowney has been shown the exit with his comments. Not even Watson can mend this. He's more worried about his vehicle stolen from the lot. George taking shots from Deshaun Watson, just in case you didn't hear. His very expensive Dodge Ram truck was stolen from, I think it was it a Nissan dealership in North Olmsted, I believe?
Ben's yeah.
Yeah, so it was stolen from there or what have you. These car theft rings are, getting the vehicles, because they just the week before last, they stole 5 vehicles from Alfa Romeo dealership in Strongsville, Ohio. So, right now, a lot of Kias and Hondas are being stolen. So if you do have those kind of cars, unfortunately, somebody posted on TikTok how you can steal these vehicles. So, I recommend going old school. Brandy, you remember the club?
Yes.
Yes. So that's what law enforcement is recommending for these vehicles, so they are not stolen. And, it's an ugly, unattractive option, but, it could stop your vehicle from being stolen. So, hopefully his vehicle is recovered. It's a pretty expensive piece of equipment. So I'm pretty sure that the vehicle will be recovered. But, I seen him in his Bentley truck. So, with somebody, the amount of money he has, obviously price is no object, and he probably has numerous vehicles. But I've seen the Bentley truck or what have you. So
I heard they found the truck that was stolen in a ditch somewhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Once it got out that it was Deshaun Watson's vehicle, I was pretty sure that it was going to be recovered pretty quickly.
Right.
So I'm glad that it was. So what are your thoughts about Alex Prefer? Do you think Alex Prefer should be kept on the staff as a special teams coordinator?
So I'm not too sure, kind of back and forth. Special teams we did see, good glimpses of where they were playing well. I think the biggest struggle on special teams was returning. They kind of switched up throughout the year who was returning, but that was, kind of where their biggest struggle was. But I think, that's not on him. I think they just need to find the correct person of who they can put back there and who's going to, get some yards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, special teams is one of those things where, how do you coach K York better for him to be able to make his kicks? And I think, not saying he was put out there in some bad situations, but, he just struggled. And, you drafted this kicker, so he struggled this past year. So, you got to hope that this is just part of, being a rookie, and that is definitely going to get better, because you needed to get better, because you're going to need him to be out there, in some crucial situations. And I was asking you guys in that game against the Baltimore Ravens when Justin Tucker, struggled a little bit. Does this give Cade a little bit of an excuse? Because one of the great ones, if not the greatest, field goal kicker ever, when it's all said and done, struggle. Does this, is it okay that Cade struggled as well too? You guys are like, no, it's not okay. So So, obviously you look to see a lot of improvement out of him. You look to see improvement out of this return game because, they didn't start off with the best field position in a lot of games because of the inability to be able to return the ball and put your offense in a good situation. It rarely happens. So, excuse me, I don't even begin to know how do you resolve those problems on special teams.
Yeah, me neither. It's hard. I think, this off season is going to be probably, the biggest off season for the Browns, especially, certain players, like you said, Cade York. I think it's going to be good. Deshaun Watson will have the whole training camp and off season with the players as well. He didn't have that last year. So I'm hoping that will be able to help the offense, mesh together.
I think so as well. And I think, him, getting that, like you said, that training camp and stuff like that. And, I think he's got adjusted to game speed. Well, he got sacked 7 times. So, I think he really got adjusted to game speed and pace and flow playing in Cleveland, because remember, that kind of was a knock on Cleveland when it came down to the selection process, other than the $230 million guaranteed, was that he wanted to play in a cold weather warm weather place. And that game against the Saints was, one of the coldest of all time. And, Kevin Stefanski threw the ball a ton instead of running the ball. So that was definitely a winnable game. The score was 17-10, right?
Yep. And the Saints had a ton of injuries this year. So, going into that game, I thought the Browns would definitely win. And I was kind of disappointed out of, having Deshaun Watson back now. I think that was a game that they definitely shouldn't have lost.
Yeah. So, because they were in the hunt, they were outside in the hunt. But, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And, I think he'll definitely be marked improvement. And, I think he can get back to the 2020 Deshaun Watson that, was the throwing leader and all that other stuff. So we're going to go ahead and take another break. You are listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We'll be right back.
It's time for the 10th annual Celebrity Soup for the Soul fundraiser. Grab your spoons, your bread, and your appetite and meet us on Saturday, February 25th from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Hilton Garden Inn, 700 Beta Drive in Mayfield Village. This fabulous fundraiser will be hosted by Fox 8 personality. Now it's time to kick it with Kenny Crumpet. And News 5 Denita Harris. Soup for the Soul 2023 will fill you up with deliciously prepared soups served up piping hot. So good and tasty by some of Cleveland's finest. Dishing out the delectables will be the folks from Fox 8 News, WKYC Channel 3, News Channel 5, WOIO Cleveland 19 News, CW43 Focus, 93.1 WZAK, J Honda Auto Group, Skylar Ray's Culinary Service, and WKNR, 8:50 a.m., along with Chef Eric Wells, Yvonne Horter of Hope Haven, Kevin Chill Hurd, Sam Silk, Mark Lyons, and Nathan Lancree. The fun doesn't stop there. After filling your belly, get your groove on with a live concert featuring jazz artist Kofi B, straight out of Akron. A silent auction, door prizes, raffle, music, food, friends, and fun, all in support of the families and children of Strengthening Our Students, nonprofit organization whose mission is to enrich lives through education, life skills, and innovative programs. Meet us Saturday, February 25th at the Hilton Garden Inn, 700 Beta Drive from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. For more information, visit strengtheningourstudents.com or call 216-374-6452. Soup for the Soul is sponsored by Morgan Lennon's, RPM, Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen, the AKA Team, Burton Belcar Development, Fox 8 News, J Honda Auto Group, Hilton Garden Inn, Nexter Media Group, Brennan Associates of Cleveland, Jack Entertainment, Fold In Magazine, and WOVU 95.9 FM. Our voices united, Burton Belcar Community Radio.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle on WOVU at 95.9 FM. This is Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports, and I am here with Miss Brandy Fairfax, and we were wrapping up the season that was with the Cleveland Browns before we start that, a news cycle in which, all we do is talk about the Browns starting about June and stuff like that. So a little bit of a break from the Browns. Brandy, do you think the Haslam should sell this team? It's been 10 years of ownership and, one playoff appearance and pretty much nothing but losing seasons outside of that. Do you think that they should sell this team?
I'm not sure. I think, a lot of it in their ownership, the Browns have had probably maybe 6 or 7 head coaches by now throughout that time. So I think, they just need to find a coach that works for them. I think, throughout the NFL as a whole league, a lot of times you see owners who are maybe too hands-on, and then you see others that maybe are taking too far of a seat back. So I think, maybe just for them, finding that medium and, finding a coach that works good in the system and is able to produce wins.
Mm-hmm. What is one word that you would use to describe the season?
Oh, geez. A mess.
I was going to say troublesome.
Right.
Very, very troublesome. And, I'm not sure about the direction that this team is going. Can they win? But, you got Deshaun Watson. Now you got him, for a full season, a full training camp, and all that other stuff. So, all we really can do is just go up from here. So, hopefully, he can get us, to being a playoff team. We can make the acquisitions that we need during the offseason and go from there. Because, I'm beyond frustrated and fed up and things of that nature. But, I only got so much power in this situation. So, but, I think things are troublesome, once you start firing coaches and all that other stuff. So, we're going to see, Kevin Stefanski is going to be given another chance. But I do believe that if he doesn't, produce a winning season, that, his seat is hot. He could be fired at the end of this season. So, he's, auditioning for other job opportunities and things like that, because maybe he should just be an offensive coordinator. Maybe he's not cut out to be a head coach, because I feel like head coaches shouldn't call their own plays. Now, DJ Chris Styles disagrees with me on that, because Andy Reid calls his own plays, but that's Andy Reid. Andy Reid been a coach in the NFL for a long time. So, I'm okay with people, who's been doing this for a long time. I feel like Kevin Stefanski, needs to learn how to actually be a head coach and learn the nuances of, complete game management before he calls his own plays. But, people can, beg to differ with that. So, I'm good with that too. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. There's not too many head coaches that could do both. Like you said, Andy Reid, Sean Payton's one of
do it successfully.
Right. So, there's only a few to be able to do that. But, like you said, maybe, just take not even fully give it up, but, just take a step back from calling, just do head coaching, see how that goes. And then, he could start calling plays again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, now who's your team now that you're rolling with in the playoffs? Don't tell me the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh no, I'm probably my dad's a Dallas fan, so I'm hoping they take down Tom Brady tonight. But other than that, I'm gonna support Cincinnati, because they're in Ohio, so why not? Joe Burrow, former Buck.
Yeah, I know. I root for Cincinnati too, and it was a big thing last year. They were talking about, rooting for Cincinnati. Cincinnati never roots for us. So why are we rooting for them? But I look at it as they're the last remaining Ohio team from our great state of Ohio. So I feel as if, I have to root for them. Who else am I going to root for? So I think that probably Buffalo will beat them. It just seems like Buffalo is a team of destiny, and they're going to come out of the AFC. So I got Buffalo beating Cincinnati next week, and I'm rocking with Buffalo. The Dallas Cowboys are always, don't they have like disappointment or something?
Yes, always.
Yeah. So, the Dallas Cowboys are very disappointing no matter how good their year was. They always find a way to blow it. And, Tom Brady, is great and the GOAT. So it'll be interesting to see if he can, lead that offense against that defense, because Tom Brady don't got nobody. And, the AFC South was one of the weakest conferences in all of football. So, I think tonight's game will be very interesting. So I'll be watching that. Out of the NFC, I have the Philadelphia Eagles coming out of the NFC. So I was kind of surprised about that result of the Giants, beating the Vikings. I was really surprised about that. I thought that the Vikings were going to win that game, but Brian Dable had the Giants ready to play.
Yeah, he definitely did. I know I was talking about parlays with people and they were saying to pick Minnesota, and I was like, ooh, I don't know. I think Giants are going to play a good game, but I think, Dable has coached them very well this year.
Yeah, so hats off to the Giants for doing it, not having the best record or anything like that. And, hats off to the Jaguars. I don't really like Trevor Lawrence since he played at Clemson, but, them coming back against the Chargers, was admirable, and things of that nature. So that was pretty cool. That's what I talk about. How do teams, that had imminent disaster and could have folded, how do they come back and actually be able to win a playoff game at that, where they were down 27 points, because I wasn't able to catch the game at all, but they were down 27 points and managed to win that game. And that's just something that the Browns can't do. They don't know how, they're not built, and they don't know how to play to come back from behind. But, hats off to Jacksonville for doing that and believing in themselves and being able to get it done against the Chargers. Joey Bosa didn't do his team any favors or anything like that, with the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. You got to be able to hold your tempers in check, but it is what it is. So, congrats to Jacksonville. But I have a Super Bowl, the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles is who I have matching up from here on out.
I could see it, definitely.
All right, so let's move on to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They just won the game. Trying to find the score because I was driving in the car, but they just beat the
113 to 103.
Thank you so much. So a 10-point win. They were pretty much down the whole game, came back at the end of the third quarter and, made a run and were able to sustain that run. So we did not get a chance to talk about Donovan Mitchell and his 71 points. Can you just talk about how special Donovan Mitchell is?
Yeah, it's so crazy, being here on the East Coast, not a lot of people saw when he was playing in Utah just because of the time difference. But, it's just so special to see, how quick he came to the team and, how much, you could see the team loves him, the fans love him, and just to be able to drop, that many points. And it was, in the game, it didn't even seem like that many, but, he was definitely going off towards the end. And it was a very exciting game to watch.
Yeah, it was definitely exciting. I had a chance to be inside the house, and it was kind of like a playoff game. But I second what you said about never watching him play, because those games come on, very late. So I struggled on this West Coast trip, especially that game against the Portland Trailblazers. I'm like, man, it's 10 o'clock, and the game didn't go off until almost 1 o'clock in the morning. So
Right.
there's no way that I could be up watching West Coast teams playing, and that's why I don't get a chance to see what LeBron does with the Lakers. But, Donovan Mitchell is just a special player. He's leading in the shooting guard categories for All-Star, so he'll probably be an All-Star, back in Utah. They almost beat Utah in Utah, but, if it wasn't for Ryan Clarkson's, crazy like 7-point plays and some, phantom 3-point calls on Karis LeVert, they wouldn't have had that swing, and Cleveland Cavaliers would have been able to win that game. So, it was kind of crazy, that 7-point swing and the foul calls that they were calling. You wanted Donovan Mitchell to be able to get back home and get that win, but, it just didn't transpire like that. But, Donovan Mitchell is just such a great player. He has all the tools, all the essentials, to be a winner and to propel this team, further in the playoffs than we've been since, we've had LeBron. A finals appearance, I don't know all about that, But, when we've had LeBron, we haven't made the playoffs. So, we'll be able to make the playoffs without LeBron and, hopefully be able to have a deep run. They've had Boston numbers beating them twice in overtime. So, they've showed that they can go out and play with the better teams in our league. So I'm super excited about what this future holds with Donovan Mitchell being on the team. And, I didn't realize, because I never seen him play that much, I didn't realize how important and how amazing of a signing it truly was. And getting a chance to, see him play, see how he moves, how he behaves day in, day out. He's just a stand-up guy. He's an amazing guy. So, it's just congratulations to him for all the success he's had. And, you hope he continues to have more in a Cleveland Cavalier uniform. George Medicky says, I want the Haslams to sell. Find who out there wants to buy a team. I don't know. Is Mark Cuban looking to buy an NFL team?
Right. There you go.
Or Dan Gilbert, I'm thinking about, some of these people who are billionaires. So, they might be wanting to buy a team. T1980 says Brooklyn, Brownsville, New York, city of the house of Mop. So I think he's talking about Donovan Mitchell, where he's from. And George says it was nice to see Ricky Rubio back on the court. His game on the court will be another option for the Cavs. So, yeah, he had a pretty decent game against the Portland Trail Blazers when he came back. So, every time he has the ball and I watch him move, I'm just like, oh, I'm just thinking about, like, hopefully he doesn't get hurt again. And T says, much love. I'm so Brooklyn, Brownsville. So I guess that's where Donovan Mitchell is from. So we're up against it. We have to take another break. So we're going to be right back. You're listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU and 95.9 FM. We will be right back.
Last summer, we told you about the St. Luke's Foundation's plan to put its money where its mouth is by listening to you through the Lift Every Voice project. Your voice has impacted where, why, and how St. Luke's Foundation spread that monetary love in the last quarter of 2022 to the tune of $1.8 million. That's $1.8 million awarded to 20 organizations that will help St. Luke's Foundation achieve the mission of health equity, the equal opportunity for all to live the healthiest life possible. That's $1.8 million to address what matters to you. Quality education, financial stability, healthy eating, active living, safe and affordable housing, social connections, and strong neighborhoods. This year, St. Luke's Foundation awarded $7 million, and 60% of it went to organizations led by Black and Brown people. Now that's putting your money where your mouth is. WOVU 95.9 FM salutes Timothy Tramble Sr., President and CEO of St. Luke's Foundation, and the entire St. Luke's Foundation team for their commitment to funding the solutions that help people live healthy, fulfilling lives. To learn more about St. Luke's Foundation, visit stluke'sfoundation.org. This is WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Are you struggling with a legal issue that impacts your basic needs, such as housing, safety, or finances? The Legal Aid Society of Cleveland may be able to help. They offer free legal services to people facing eviction, landlord disputes, debt problems, and more. Visit Legal Aid's website at www.lsclev.org to apply for help, or call 216-687-1900.
Welcome back to Her in the Huddle with Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports.
All right, welcome back to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. Wanted to talk a little Cleveland Cavaliers, but right now there's rumors of a possible trade, three-way trade for Malik Beasley from the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Cleveland Cavs would get Malik Beasley, and they would trade Karis LeVert to the Atlanta Falcons, and the Jazz would get John Collins as well. So Dean Wade was hurt once again. That's nothing new. The team, they won today, and they're 13-4 when Jared Allen has a double. So they're, I guess, 6-5 in the last 11 games. They're still struggling on the road, coming off of a road trip and things of that nature. So, obviously, the same things over and over again. They have to be able to win on the road, and that's what playoff teams do, is win on the road. So, got a couple, I think they go on the road again, and then they're back at home for a little bit. Cavalier schedule. Yeah. Oh no, they take on the Grizzlies. So they take on the Grizzlies on Wednesday, and they have the Warrior. Okay, so they have a couple home games. So they take on the Grizzlies on Wednesday, and then John Moran. I don't know if you got a chance to see his dunk the other day. So John Moran out here having silly dunks. Then they take on the Warriors on this Friday. So hopefully that'll be a win, and that'll be a huge win. To be able to beat the Warriors, because that's just one of the teams that we haven't really been able to beat. And then they take on the Buccaneers at home again. So I think that will end the series season with the Buccaneers, because we've played them twice in Milwaukee, and this will be the second time that we've played them at home. So they'll be done with Milwaukee, and then they go out on the road against the Knicks and Rockets and Thunder. So another kind of West Coast trip. So yeah, so they have the opportunity to make some ground up. They play pretty great at home. They have an excellent record at home with only 4 losses. So, a lot of home cooking. So I'm looking forward to, what this team can do. And, this is a team as well that has to learn how to be able to pull out victories. And they have to learn how to pull out those victories on the road. And that's something that I believe JB talks about. And that's something that, he's trying to coach them through. But, unfortunately, when you get terrible foul calls like the ones that took place in Utah, it's kind of hard to do that, because we all know in the NBA that the home team always gets all the foul calls.
Right.
So, it's going to be kind of difficult for that. So a little bit on the scouting report of Malik Beasley. He excels as a jump shooter. He has excellent form and body control, and he can hit consistently all over the court from 3-point range. So, you need a small forward. He brings superb and explosive leaping ability. He is quick and fluid, who's a good rebounder for shooting guard. He's excellent coming off screens and filling the lane. He's mature and hardworking, but he struggles at both ends in pure one-on-one situations, since he's not a top-end ball handler or passer for a guard, and not big or long enough to defend very regularly at small forward, maybe somewhat limited to the shooting guard spot. So that's one of the things, you're going to have to guard other small forwards. So we kind of need you to be good at defense. And, if he can get here and buy into the defensive philosophy, I think that he possibly could be okay. They say his long range potential, he's athletic, he's a talented combo guard with off the bench scoring appeal. Do you think that we're giving up on Karis LeVert too early?
I think so, a little bit. I think, so far in this season, we have seen, improvement from him compared to last year. Right now he's averaging 12.5 points. I think Beasley's averaging like almost 14. So, right now their stat lines are sort of similar. So I think, they are giving up on Karis a little bit too early, especially seeing how he played with the Pacers. So I don't know. I'm not sure how much Beasley would help us more than Karis is.
Mm-hmm. And that's my concern. You're giving up somebody who probably won't be able to, do too much for you. And, you might as well keep Karis then at that point instead of doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Jared Allen. So that's a pretty good stat, 13 and 4 when he has a double double. So, that's kind of important, for this team as they go and excel is that they're going to need, excellent play out of him as he goes against other bigs. I prefer for him to put on a little bit of weight, because there's just, when you get into that heart of that Eastern Conference, he's going up against Joel Embiid, he's going up against Giannis, he's not able to stop them. And that's kind of his job to be able to stop those players. So, he needs to put a little bit of weight on and, buy into what this team is doing defensively as well. But what do you think about that stat about this team being 13 and 4 when he has a double double?
Yeah, I believe it. I think, the games when we see Jared Allen playing really well, we see everyone playing really well. But, he has struggled on the defensive side in the past few games, when they were playing Portland the other day. So, I think Evan Mobley, though, in the meantime, he has definitely stepped up on the defensive side than what we've seen.
Yeah, he needs to put some weight on too, definitely,
Yeah.
as he proceeds with his career. And I think he will as well too. He's gonna put on more muscle and stuff like that. And I think 10 years from now we'll kind of be laughing about how skinny he was, but and Jared is kind of trying to develop a little shot, a 10-footer and stuff like that. He's been great, at rebounding. So that shows, how important it is that he's in that paint, giving them second chance opportunities and scoring points. And he's been having some steals and he's been hustling on defense. So that's been something that's been really important for this team. So I commend him, and I think that's a great stat. So we need him to continue to score double doubles and be an important in that paint. Because remember last year when they had him, Evan Mobley, and Lauri Markkanen in that paint, the Cavs kind of were unstoppable. So, do you, no, I don't think that they would go under after another big. This team has a hole at shooting guard, and that's what they have to fill. Anybody else that comes to your mind as a shooting guard that we might be able to trade for?
I know I saw last week they were talking about Bogdanovic, who's in Detroit, which I think he would probably fit in pretty well with the Cavs.
Okay. Yeah, Malik Beasley is only 6'4" too. So when I think I'm a small forward, I'm thinking about them being a little bit taller, around the 6'8" range, like LeBron James was. So I'm thinking about that. I definitely would like them to be a little bit taller. There's no other people that come to my mind right now, anyway. But I'd rather not trade somebody out for Karis LeVert Light. You might as well just keep him with the team. So, Darius Garland, has been improving as well. So I like what he's doing, with this team. And, we might not have Donovan Mitchell because Donovan Mitchell was hurt today. So he stopped playing in the third quarter. So I believe he had a groin strain, I think, today. So we'll be checking the reports to see how long, that's going to limit him. But, hopefully, it's just something that be able to heal in a day or two if he gets some rest. They were just on a long road trip, so hopefully this isn't anything that's too serious because we just can't afford to be without Donovan Mitchell right now.
Yeah, I agree. That would definitely just throw the whole team off. The one good thing is we do have Rubio back, but with the teams like you said, they have Memphis next and then the Warriors, so hopefully he's able to play.
Right. And I think that you have to bring Ricky Rubio in, very gradually, very gingerly, because he's been out for so long. I mean, he took a year to recover. So I'm thinking that, he's probably on the minutes restriction as well. So you're not going to be able to get as much out of, Rubio as well. So this will be when the Isaac Okoros need to step up and things of that nature. So we'll need more out of them. And Lamar Stevens, they're going to need to step up as well. So, Brandy, that is our time. Show flew by today.
It really did. We had to catch up on all that Browns talk.
Yeah, I know. And definitely tomorrow we're going to talk some Ohio State as well, because we got to get to that game and what's going on with CJ Stroud and stuff like that. But I want to thank you so much for joining me today. And for Rachel Hill and T1980 says, much love. I'm so Brooklyn. We are out of here. But you're the best thing